Well, Simon Sensei, it's been a long month, but
Yes.
I'm back on the beer.
Oh, Sensei, I'm glad your concept of months is slightly miscued.
Well, can I just
First
say,
step today, everyone.
can I just say, like, dry January is a bit stupid with 30 days. Like, dry February sounds better with 28 days. If it was dry February, I could have started drinking from Thursday, but it's now Saturday, and but it has been over 4 weeks since I last had a drink.
Well, to that, let's have a drink to that.
Okay.
To foolishness. Kampai.
Hi.
Right. Oh. I also think that because of times and how people are feeling, January has been a month just to hibernate, really.
Yeah.
And I feel for me, February is the week I'm going to come up my shell a bit more and try and do a bit more. Because it's been cold and wet and we're all fed up and tired. Yeah. And I need a haircut. Phoebe's going to do it tomorrow.
I can send Darren round if you want. My daughter.
Yeah, my daughter's going to do it tomorrow for me. So.
Yeah, I after a couple of days of homeschooling with Darren, I decided that she was clever enough to go to university, so she chose hairdressing school.
And now we see the results.
Yeah.
For men like us, it's fine. Tough karate haircut.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. As I was trying to convince Ross and Rue, a life of a karateka should be austere.
Yes.
You know, Rue with his whatever it is, bleached blonde hair, and Ross with his ginger man bun. This is not austere enough. And you have to, be willing to cut your hair off.
Yes. Yes, I mean, old school karate. I remember one time I went to Japan with you the first time, and Tor came with us when we did Kangekko, JKS. I had my hair cut ridiculously, like number ones. And she said to me, "Oh, good karate haircut, Simon." And I went, "Of course, I'm doing Kangekko." But it was always the thing. Karate people always had short hair, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I remember Koiki Sensei talking to him. He went to teach in Romania or something. And he said the spirit of everyone was great. He said all the women there had short hair, and he said to them, "Why have you got short hair?" And they go, "Because we do karate." It's like, wow, So probably for the Romanian accent there.
Oh, well done for keeping it not racist.
No, I love vampires.
Okay, listen, we have questions from the audience.
We do. God, yeah. Well, I've asked you 36 questions.
How do you know it's exactly 36?
Because we did 9 shows with 4 questions, didn't we?
I have no idea. No, this is our 11th.
Yeah, but the 10th one was the Funakoshi's 23 cents.
Yeah, that's true.
None of those are my questions. So I reckon it's 36.
Okay, cool. Right. Okay, well, I have no idea how because I'm not sure exactly where the 4 questions each time.
Well, in theory, but knowing us, as the more we drank, it may have become 7 or 8 questions each time. One very long question about the nature.
You have loads of questions: 1, A, B, C. Question 2, F, G, Y, etc. So, okay. Well, look, we will start the questions from the audience, shall we?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Shall I kick it off?
You want it?
Okay.
Yes, please.
So, Ross Stewart would like to know, do you have any regrets throughout your years of training? Things you could have done differently? He was actually telling me this, and he was saying, I don't want it kind of to be all kind of down and, kind of depressing. And he said, well, I'm sure Simon Sensei would never be down and depressing anyway. Something regrettable, but, off you go.
Okay, well, the only regret I have is in 1975, Joe Lewis, the kickboxer, who I'm going to message Ross about, the American kickboxer, came to Liverpool when Terry O'Neill did a seminar with him, advertised in Fighting Arts. It was 1977, and it was in Picton Les Sports Centre, which is like a mile from my house. And I booked a ticket, 85p or whatever. And I went there on my own, and I didn't go in.
Really?
I was very shy. I was 16 or 17, very shy. And for some reason, I was, I was a different person in those days. I stood outside and I was too scared to go in. I'm not ready for the training just because there was loads of new people there and everything. And
Yeah.
that is, and looking back on it, I think, why did I not go in? And I think that was just being young. And the other thing I remember one time,
Sorry, what grade were you when you're there? Well, at that time?
Brown belt. I was
okay.
third Q.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved American. I loved the idea of Benny Day and American kickboxing, and Bill Wallace. Joe Louis looked like super fit and ripped, and the course would have been great. But there must have been like 100 people there, and I didn't. There's a big line of people I didn't know from all styles, and I bowled it.
Yeah,
I was a lonely 16-year-old kid, and I just didn't go in. And I always look back at that, and because Bernard Rose, who I know quite well, he took pictures from Facebook, and he was there, and he took the pictures, and I didn't go in, and it was just like, why? And it was shyness. And the other thing, I have a distinct memory one time, I trained with Steve Catton in Liverpool, got my show down and stuff. Then when I moved to London, I saw him at the Nationals, and I didn't say hello to him. And he came up to me and goes, why haven't you said hello to me? And I said, because I was shy. I was a different person. So they're the only things I really regret. The other ones have been crossroads in my life, really. Yeah. So Steve had another moment when my dad died, and I came back to Liverpool, and I was lost, real lost soul. And Steve Cat was great. So he said, why don't you train with me? So I trained with him all the time. Yeah. And he picked me up in his car, or sometimes me and Steve would ring me up and say, I'm not going to pick you up and get the train. And it was only 3 months. And he said to me, he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go to London, and try and be a comedian. And he said to me, don't. Stay in Liverpool, open a club, I'll support you, and you can become a karate teacher. And I said, no. And that was like another turning point. So I don't regret that at all. Yeah. And the other one was, like I've talked about before, coming back from being in Japan and coming back, because I had another agenda. So I never saw myself as, all my ambitions in karate have always been just to do karate. Yeah. So, I had a regret I didn't train enough in Japan, maybe, but I don't regret that now at all. Just that's what it was. Yeah. So, I certainly don't regret leaving JKS. I certainly don't regret. I think the whole WTKO thing was the best thing that ever happened to us. Yeah. Because I remember sitting in this very room with you, thinking none of us, we never said, oh, let's go independent. So yeah. I think that was a necessary step. So the answer to it, the whole thing is really, that's my, not going to train with Joe Louis, karate legend, full contact American karate legend, is my biggest karate regret.
Well, mind you, though, if they were charging 85p for a ticket and there was 100 people there, they made 85 quid. They cleaned up 85.
That was a lot of money in those days.
Back in those days, I would have bought you a semi-detached in Liverpool.
And also, because I read the report about it afterwards in Combat magazine. And Bob Poynton was there, God rest his soul. And Bob Poynton thought he was rubbish because he actually did what Ross was doing today. I'm going to post it on to Ross. He was doing boxing punches, and Joe Louis says karate from the waist up is phony. He said the kicks are great because he was like a kickboxer. Yeah. And I remember Bob Poynton said like, oh, he's not in Terry's league, whatever. And then Terry O'Neill's wrote a letter to Combat magazine. I probably got it upstairs going, Bill Wallace, Joe Louis kick my ass in a kickboxing match. Really good, really good. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Can I turn the question on you then? Have you got any regrets? Oh,
no, not really. I mean, I don't really. There's one time when I was at university, and it was really important. I went to university, and it was in my first term, or first or second term. Maybe it was the second term, yeah. So it was like after Christmas of my first year at university, and I'd started seeing a girl, and it was first time kind of at university, my own room, seeing a girl. I was seeing quite a lot of her, if you know what I mean. And I was training at the time Monday and Wednesdays with Kato Sensei, and Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays with the university, and then unless I was traveling with Kato Sensei, which was most weekends, so I was training every day. But like one Monday, my girlfriend at the time came and said, "Oh, I'm coming over." I was like, "Oh, I was going to go training." Yeah, come on, I'm coming over. And I was like, "Yeah, okay," And so I never went training, and it was fine. I didn't go training. And then on the Wednesday, I turned up to training, and Kato Sensei went, "Oh, shame, ne, shame." Like he was always shame, ne. Like, what's this? What? You weren't here on Monday. Shame. I was like, why? What did I miss? He went, well, I'm going to Norway this weekend teaching, and they wanted me to bring an assistant, and so I wanted you to come, but you weren't here Monday, so I couldn't get you a ticket. Shame, hey. And I was like, fuck, and I never missed training ever again. Not for drink, not for parties, nothing.
This links to our earlier precept about having short-term, living a life of austerity. So sex has ruined your early teaching career.
Yeah, I could have been in Norway kind of a decade before.
I've been in Japanese, carrying Kato Sensei's bag.
Yeah.
I've just remember the other regret I have, again mystifying. I've got no pictures of me at Marshall Street or with Anoida Sensei.
Oh, really?
Which is like really kind of annoying, really, because I was there all the time.
Yeah.
And I never crossed my mind to take a picture. I thought I'd take a picture one day. And I've got absolutely no pictures of me doing that. I mean, lots of things in my life. But in those days, you didn't take pictures of everything, did you?
Yeah, and also I always think that the people who take pictures of stuff, it's because it's such a special event. They have to take a picture of it. Whereas if you're there doing it every single day, you don't need pictures.
No, this is true. And I was never one of those people to get me pictures taken with famous senses either.
Yeah.
So, I've trained with loads of famous senses.
Yeah.
And it never crossed my mind to get me picture taken with more, get an autograph or anything.
It's like here's a picture of when I trained really hard.
Quite often you see people, the trick of a good karate CV is to make it quite concise.
Yeah.
And quite often you'll see people who trained with, and there's a list of every single course with every single karate teacher who's ever been to England to do a course. And you just say, I went on lots of courses with people.
Yeah.
It's a way of sort of getting a fake kudos, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So there you go. No regrets apart from Joe Lewis.
Cool. Right, let's move on because we've got lots of questions to get through, haven't we?
Sorry. Right. I'm going to go serious question, short question, serious question.
Okay.
Let's do what important. Okay. Okay. Let's do this one first. Yeah. What were, let's say, the top 3 lessons you have learned from your experience as a young instructor, starting your teaching journey? So when you started your teaching journey to building up, what would you say were the 3 things that you learned? This is from Ross. Yeah.
Okay. Never leave them having lost money. Never teach the same thing. And no matter what, you're having the best time there with them.
Yeah.
I think
enjoy the class.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it kind of comes across maybe as a little bit fake. I'm having a great time. Oh yeah, it's fantastic. But I think ultimately, you can always not go back. But I think when you're there, even if the chief instructor is a complete pain in the arse, which I've been to quite a few places, only once, I never go back, where the instructor is a pain in the arse, the students aren't. And the students are always, or the most students are always keen, willing to learn, willing to try. And so for their sake, always put on a good face, do a good job. And I think there's too many people, that like too many instructors who are making very short-term decisions. So they don't think the the position that they are in will last. They kind of, they stumble upon it. They get thrust onto the, that position, and they don't quite kind of think that they're worth it. There's a lot of kind of imposter syndrome in karate, I think. Well, everywhere I think there is, but like they don't think they're worthy. So they think, well, this isn't going to last. So I'm just going to rip them off for as much money as I can, because for sure they won't invite me back. And almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, they don't get invited back because they get the instructor got ripped off, the host got ripped off. So I think make sure they don't lose money. Make sure you'd much rather take a hit on your salary and be invited back next year, having done a good job, more people come, and then next year you get your full salary and blah, blah, blah. And also, do a good job, which means don't teach the same thing every single time. I mean, like, I always try to teach different things. I mean, it might end up ultimately being the same thing because there's only a finite amount of stuff that is involved in karate. You got 2 arms, 2 legs, a body, and that's it. But ultimately, try to mix it up.
Yeah, well, we've been on courses, or we know of people who come back year after year and do that. Often, like we know someone who does the same kata every year for their group. Yeah, they asked to do a different one, they didn't. So that's good. Should we leave it at that? They're really good answers.
Yeah.
Go on then. I'll answer more short. I'll shorten my answer to the next one.
Well, don't, because you've got limited questions.
Oh, okay then.
Take your time.
All right then.
Okay, Andy Bailey says, question for Simon: has the comedy world come together to deliver online events similar to the karate world? And have you attended any or plan to? If you have, how did it go?
Well, the short answer is no. So the comedy world has been very, very slow to embrace Zoom, but they've got Zoom now, not least because it's very hard to do.
Yeah.
But the fees are very, very low. And the competition for them is massive. And I'm pretty much retired now. So there is a very small, well, like everything in show business, there's a high-end one where you'll get people, I don't know, Paul Senna, who I know is at the Chase. He's the quiz master from the Chase. He's doing corporate ones on Zoom, which would be great. Yeah. He's doing a quiz, basically, which is great. And there are some comedy nights on Zoom, which I've never done, but some of my friends have done, but not many. And because there's so many comedians want to do it, they're highly sought after, but the pay is about 50 quid or something.
Really?
And what they tend to do is get everyone doing 10 minutes, which I kind of understand. So it's 50 quid for 10 minutes, because 10 minutes is about all you want to hear.
Yeah.
So some of my friends have done it, but no, I think it's a different ball game, really. I think Zoom comedy is very, very hard.
Yeah. Well, I also think like Jimmy Carr, because Jimmy Carr's done that kind of. I think he wrote a book, didn't he, about comedy and or laughing and stuff. And one of his things he was saying was that you need at least 3 people to laugh out loud. Like if you I mean, I was watching Bill Maher this morning from his. Real Time with Bill Maher last night, and he does his monologue, every time, and he's spot on. He's really funny, but I'm not laughing. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're in a group of people watching that monologue, there would be laughter.
Yeah.
And so if you're watching Zoom, presumably you're not with a massive group of people, and so you're not laughing. You go, oh yeah, that was good. Oh, that was a good one. So it's
really timing as well. It's timing is everything. Is da 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 da. It's that, it's like, when you die in a comedy gig, it just takes that. If the first joke doesn't work and then your next gag doesn't work, the whole audience go, and then you've got to sell the next one. If you like going, laugh at me, please. And if you don't, you've had it. So it's that connect, it's the separateness, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like, remember when we did Karate at Home? That's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no feedback. And I remember when I did Karate at Home, I used my sort of showbiz training to imagine I could see people. I literally projected sort of people there and go, right, I stopped, I'm going to watch you now. You ready? Itch, knee. And I did a little bit of counting, to try and get them to do it, practice again. And that was pure imagination, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it burns time, doesn't it? An hour's a long time when you're just talking and covered in sweat.
Yeah, Karate at Home is probably the hardest gig I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, me too.
Just exhausted after. I mean, I've done 2. Second one wasn't so bad because I did the application of Gankak, and so it wasn't so bad. but I don't like both times I had the guys in with me in the dojo. I don't think I could have done it as well.
I did one on my own. And it was really hard. And I remember looking at the clock when I'd done the class, and it was like 45 minutes. And I thought, okay, let's go. Not in any rush to do that again.
Yeah.
So that's that question. Good question, Andy. Nice to hear from you. I'll do Andy's question then. Andy's question, I'll do a quick short one. When this all finishes, is there anywhere in the world where you'd like to teach, and why?
I'd like to. Well, there's quite a few places. Well, I mean, I'd like to travel. So, Central South America, for sure.
Ooh, yeah.
Go to. I wouldn't mind seeing parts of Africa. I'd love to go back to South Africa. Love to go to Mauritius with Vince.
I think we have to go to Mauritius. Really.
Yeah, I'd love to see Kenya. I fancy seeing kind of like the Middle East. Well, not so much like the Arab world. So kind of maybe like certainly Egypt. I'd love to go to Egypt. I'd love to go to. I wouldn't mind going to Algeria and seeing and Morocco, all those kind of areas.
Morad Sensei.
Yeah, Morad Sensei. I'd love to see.
I mean, that would be brilliant to go there.
Yeah, so there's loads of places that I'd like. I love traveling, so anywhere really, because everything's going to be unique and different and flavoursome. But I'd love to. I really want to go to Egypt and see the pyramids, but that's obviously kind of just personally kind of for travel and tourism. But anywhere really.
Well, the supplementary question to this is from Phil Hickman, and he says, how likely on a scale of 1 to 10 that HDKI will do a Japan trip in the next 12 months?
So, the plan was for the autumn of this year to go. I think as time goes by, it's getting less likely. Not because we won't be able to go, because for sure, well, I say for sure, but like, touch wood, knock on wood, let's hope by late spring, early summer, the vaccines are aplenty and the UK haven't nicked all our supply of AstraZeneca vaccines, and we all get vaccinated. And that's, if that's the case, then, things start to get back to normal fairly rapidly. But then things get back to normal fairly rapidly. But then that means that, like, the last 18 months, well, what will have been 18 months of no teaching and seeing people, there's going to be a massive demand for that. Seminars, basically, seminars, grading. I presume the presumption is going to be a massive demand for anything that we haven't been allowed to do for the last 18 months. And karate seminars is one of them. And so I'm normally busy in a normal period of time. I'm normally busy throughout the year anyway. And so I'm imagining that if I have to crowbar a 2-week trip into that limited time that I have, I think it's going to be difficult. So I'm thinking maybe I'm going to put it off until next January time, maybe. January.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
So, yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
One of my last remaining questions, and I'll bombard you with them. I'll give you a longer question next time.
Okay. So, well, this is from, so Matthew, for both of us. Okay. Do you think that us being trained teachers help us run karate classes? And do we think that HDKI should run a course on teaching best practice? We are trained teachers.
This is true, yes, this is true. Well, I think the ability to stand up and talk to people is kind of really, essential. Because, the old saying is like, the most scary thing, most people fear death. The second one is they fear standing up and talking to people.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the most important things of being a teacher is to have confidence to stand up and talk to people.
Well, of course, we fear neither death nor standing up and talking.
No, or having unkept hair or having an uneven samurai bun or whatever. Yeah, so that's important. And then maybe having a certain way of knowing how to deliver material and pace the class, and is all very important, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think I remember when I did teacher training, I think one of the things that kind of stuck out to me is that teaching is a vocation, in that people are naturally inclined to be that kind of, you get people who are natural healers or naturally empathetic or naturally kind of caring nurses type, and you get people who are natural educators. And what teacher training did was hone that natural skill. For good teachers, I mean, I think anybody can be a teacher, but we all had really, in school, we all had teachers that were really good and teachers that really taught you well and really kind of enthused you about the subject, and others that just delivered facts, right?
You still know their names as well.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
So hello, Mr. Sylvester. I remember them.
Yeah. So I think for sure, like, teacher training is great for honing maybe a natural tendency to be an educator.
But I did theatre and education, and I worked for a theatre and education company for a while, and that really helped me get my skills of working with children.
Yeah.
And really realizing that you have to teach children in a completely different way to adults.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of children's theatre, and I did a whole project in schools based on the curriculum. This is years and years ago, but it was very useful for me to have that work out that, you guess what, you teach children differently to grown-ups.
Yeah.
So that's been really important in the whole way I teach children.
Yeah.
And I think you have to lose that sort of, we jokingly talk about this, short hair Shugo idea. It's easy to look at your karate or maybe sometimes our classes as being just fun, not serious, because it's not miserable. But the best, like the other way of teaching, like say for example, when training in Japan was never enjoyable.
Yeah.
Or training in the 70s or in any proper dojo in the old school was only enjoyable when it finished.
Yeah.
And like you were like Anoida Sensei classes, like you were terrified of making a mistake. And often you weren't quite, often you weren't quite sure what you wanted you to do, apart from try really, 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 really hard. And so in terms of, teaching, pedagogy, it wasn't very, it was, it's not a good way to teach people.
Yeah.
Teaching through fear, teaching through repetition. It's a bit like Victorian classrooms, beating education into people or making them. So I think it's really useful. But you don't have to be a trained teacher to be a karate teacher.
So what do you think about the second part of his question about the HDKI having a best practice program?
I think we could certainly do a ideas for teaching. I think that would be quite good. I mean, I'd be quite happy. I'd love to do something like someone booked me of ideas for teaching kids. I mean, that's what I did on Karate at Home.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be more than happy just to talk about teaching children everything from safeguarding to best practice, and I think would be a bad idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other thing is, you have to find your own style as well. Like watching Rue recently. Rue's kind of arrived on the world stage, I thought, seeing him this weekend and seeing him doing his stuff with the kids and the trolls and stuff.
Yeah.
It was really nice to see. And I think you saw that because that's where you posted it.
Yeah.
So, the trick is it's got to be in you. It's got to be instinctive. You can't teach anyone this stuff, can you?
Yeah. I mean, because I think that's the problem, isn't it? When you start creating a program, it kind of drifts towards kind of that standardization of things. And the thing is that it has to be from within. And I think as the HDKI's role is to facilitate and to, provide opportunity. But it is there to facilitate kind of people and to provide the opportunity for people. And so we want to give them the tools that they can then cherry pick for that best suits them. And so, providing them with ideas, providing them with resources, and also providing them with the permission to be nice rather than that whole just copying the old system of, oh, when you teach karate, you must be like this. No, if we provide examples of something different, then they go, oh, that I'm allowed to do it that way, am I? Okay, and so I think I would avoid a program type thing. I would avoid a kind of this is how you should do X, Y, Z. But what I think we should do is provide plenty of material, plenty of ideas, and then say, steal whatever you want.
I mean, I agree, because what we don't want is a script. You know, you could imagine some sort of Mac Dojo thing going, hello, children, today we're going to learn karate, Nikki, Naki, or something.
Yeah.
But I think any instructor worth their salt, anyway, should be stealing like mad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, or like Bruce Lee, absorbing what is useful.
Yeah.
So I think you said a while ago a really good line. You know, people who are normally like stiff and jerky in the karate are normally stiff and jerky in their head.
Yeah.
And I would kind of think, you know, we want instructors need to be engaged, not producing parrot fashion stuff. And against, to quote for searching for the way, finding your own karate, and that isn't even pretentious. That's just as a teacher.
Yeah,
you have to find your own teaching style, nick stuff that's good, and of course best practice. Yeah. And maybe we should, and you should just pick that up from intuitively, really. So if someone books someone for a course and they come and they make all the kids cry, you never book them again.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think also we karate people, 21st century karate, we're not in a Shaolin temple. We're not in a boxing dojo with broken nose. Yeah. We're teaching a community-based martial art for everybody. But don't underestimate people like yourself who are nice and friendly and smiley, because if you train on different levels, the training gets very hard. Or you train with Rick Jackson, or with the lads, or me when we want to be. There's there's proper karate, but it doesn't have to be shouty all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There you go then. Okay. Right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've run out of questions for you by now, but there's a few questions for both of us, isn't there? So
don't worry, I'll jump. Yeah, there are. Yeah. Okay. Continuing this then. So this is a good question from Rue. What important lessons have you learned about leadership?
That's Rue, is it?
That's Rue. Oh, sorry, Rue. No, it was Mr. Smith from Mozambique.
What important?
I think that's a good, because that's a good question. Well, you talk, and then I'll tell you how you've helped me on these issues.
Like the thing about
this is like when I asked you about Assai, same sort of thing, or you asked me about grading. It's like, I don't want to talk.
Yeah. What can I say about leadership? Like I don't necessarily think that I'm a leader. I think that I endeavor to kind of push myself forward, and then people decide that what I'm doing is either a good thing or a bad thing. And if they think it's a good thing, then they, in some way or another, not emulate, but kind of copy, follow, or pulled along. And so I don't for a moment think, like when I say, I'm a leader amongst equal, or I'm, like that kind of like, we're leaders amongst equals, that type of thing. I do genuinely mean that, rather than it just being a throwaway cliche, because I don't ever kind of think that I am anything other than just some kid from Liverpool. You know what I mean? And long may that continue.
Yeah, but I feel that the same. But as my role here, even in England, there are moments when people look to you, and you have to.
Yeah, there are, and there's times when I have to make a decision, and I have no problem at all about making hard decisions.
No, you don't.
Because someone has to make it. And I think the thing about kind of like when I make decisions like that, then I feel absolutely entitled to make those decisions because of everything that I've done in the past and everything that I've produced and everything that I've built. So I have absolute right to make this decision. And I think the moment that I start to overreach that, then I'm no longer leading. Like the moment that anybody ever questions what I say means that I've stepped over the mark. Well, you know,
Right.
like I can't. Well, there's a few examples of people who just didn't like me within the group that I was with, who I would make a decision and they tried to cause trouble because they were looking for my position, you know, and they got it eventually. But like generally speaking, when I make a hard decision, the vast majority of people go, yeah, yeah, that's right. You know, because I've carefully thought about everything, and I've been intimately connected with every single part of the decision making process. And I've gone, okay, I've considered everyone, and this is the decision I've made, and therefore this is the best way. And even the people who I've made a decision against, they at least they know I've considered their point of view. So okay, so what I'm trying to say is that you should, like, what I've learned about leadership is that you should only ever make a decision and be that leader when you intimately know the effects of everything that will happen. And if you're making a decision that goes against someone, you better make sure that they know you're on their side and that you're justifying it for other reasons. And the other thing I've learned about leadership is that there is an awful lot of people out there who are very two-faced, and they can be sweet and lovely and hard training and dedicated to your face, and then you turn your back and there's something completely down. So what I tend to do nowadays is very carefully watch how people treat low grades. When they're not, when they think I'm not looking.
Right.
Because I've very carefully learned that how they treat me is meaningless. But how they treat some orange belt, some purple belt, some guy who's just walked in the dojo, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I literally was listening to in the radio the other day. It's a Super Bowl next week. It was on Talk Sport, and apparently, you know, they do the draft in American football.
Yeah.
And this is similar. And what they do is it's really important that people fit into the team. And the NFL, the teams, they have private detectives, and they'll follow someone around like for a week to see how they interact in the community.
Really?
And this guy said there's some great, I don't know, American football player for the college draft. They really liked him, but they got a report on how he responded to people in the community and everything. And they just said, this guy's not going to fit in our team.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's just from what you said now. And then another guy said, this guy came for the draft and he was in the lift with him going up to the top floor. And by the time he got to the top floor, by the whole way he was in the lift, he decided he wasn't going to play for whatever, the Seahawks or whatever. Yeah. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
So, you know, Karen, Armenian Karen, he was working for Groupon, or he was an IT guy. He was a specialist IT guy.
Yeah.
And he was telling me he'd gone through several interviews for this job, and they took him out. They said, "Oh, we'd like to take you out for a meal," and he went, "Yeah, okay." So he went out for. I mean, it's a fairly high level job. So they took him out for a meal, and they were just chatting, getting to know him. And at the end of the meal, they said, "Right, we'd like to offer you the job." Oh, okay. And he was thinking, "Oh, they must have liked me." You know, they were watching how he treated the staff.
Yeah.
The waiters. They wanted to see how he treated the waiters.
Yeah. I mean, I think, seek perfection of character, that empty platitude. But it's all about character. So, I've learned a lot from you. When I first started, WTKO, I entered this world, never thought I'd be a leader of whatever I was. God, it was a nightmare. It was against everything, because, I'm very direct, down to earth, no agenda, didn't want to be never thought of myself as the boss, and then suddenly I met these characters who had an agenda.
Yeah.
And I always say now, I talk to people now, and they said, people ask me permission to do stuff or whatever. And I said, if you think it's reasonable, it's pretty likely I'm going to think it's reasonable.
Yeah.
Because it's reasonable, you know. I mean, you know me, I struggle with all those characters. Look, and you were great just mentoring me on that, because it's just like, knowing when to pick your battles or let things go and don't take it personally.
Yeah.
And, sorry, go on, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I think the thing about leadership is that you end up doing things you don't want to do. That's what leadership is. I think leadership, people go into leadership thinking, right, I'm gonna tell people what to do, and I'm gonna have it all my own way because I'm the leader now. That's what leaders do, and it's not that at all. A good leader is constantly sacrificing your own needs and your own principles, really, and your own kind of red lines. Like, okay, I will never cross this. This is what, and then you end up going, Jesus, like from their point of view, my red line is really inappropriate. From their point of view, like I would never allow, I don't want this to happen, but from their point of view. So like, I'll give you a good example. He who shall remain nameless. Like there was a club instructor, a dojo head in the group WCKOGB, and he wants to do he became a Dan examiner, and like it was a bit of a surprise to us already that he was made a Dan examiner beyond our control. But like, he was fine. It was fine because we needed another Dan examiner, and that was fine. He was great. But what we said was, well, look, these are the rules that we, run by. You need someone else on the panel. It needs to be a special event. You can't. And I literally remember I said, you can't just turn up on a Tuesday night and grade your own guys because and a whole host of reasons why he couldn't do that, or she.
I said, I'll drive up to his location and I will, but not on a Tuesday night.
Yeah. So which he agreed to. And then, I'm sure his version is very different, but then, I heard from the grapevine that he was literally holding a Dan examination with his own students on a Tuesday night, which happened to be his training night. And so I rang him up and I said, like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm really sorry. I know I agreed to that, but, I promised my guys that that I'd grade them and blah, 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 blah. And, I was left with the decision of, do I force him to kind of abide by the promise he made, and then disappoint 6 or 7 of his students who had, because this was only days before the examination.
Yeah.
Or do I then sacrifice their grading because he promised this? Or do I allow the 6 or 7 people to fulfill their grading that they are building up for, and sacrifice my principle and his promise? And so, I had to make a decision and say, okay, this is the only time you'll ever do this, but okay, go ahead and do it. And he did it, and blah, blah, blah. But the point is,
he left anyway.
But the point is that that's leadership, is having to agree to things you don't want. Whereas people think that leadership is making other people agree to things that you want. It doesn't work that way.
What I realised, I had a similar incident with an event that I was adamant shouldn't go on. And after speaking to you, you convinced me. And what I realised is you're giving people wings.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a really good lesson, because I was just being a stubborn old fart going, I don't like it. I don't believe it. We're not doing it. And you said to me, you've got to let them do it. Yeah. And now, with the benefit of hindsight, of course I did, because they've got wings, and it's worked out fine. And that was me being just stubborn and old fashioned.
Yeah.
And, I was just thinking, I heard a podcast the other day about someone who talked about an instructor, and he only did gradings twice a year. And if you went on holiday, you missed the grading. And, that's sort of enchanting. It's like, it's just being like mean and petty and money grabbing.
Yeah.
So a good leader says, well, the grading's on December the 12th and that's it. There's 4 kids who've got the Christmas party school play. And you go, well, they'll do it in December, January, February, March, May. They can do it in June then.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's letting people fly and giving them wings, you know, and it's that old saying, is it, you know, criticize people and beat them and they'll hate you, you know, praise them and encourage them and they'll follow you.
Yeah.
And and there'll always be an anomaly where someone will take the piss.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, other people who's like, basically was looking for a way out. And they, you know, remember they'd lost money at a competition. So we said, all right, we'll refund you the competition, you know, and the whole story. And they still left, but the only reason they left was because it wasn't because we did our very best for them, but we couldn't. Yeah. They didn't want to be with us.
And I think also, like being a good leader is never ever showing your power, never ever showing your authority. Whereas being a bad leader is the absolute opposite. Like if you're constantly saying to people, "I'm the leader, I'm the boss. This is what I do. You know, this is what you have to do." Like then you're not a leader. Whereas if you're constantly kind of almost capitulating, really, but that's the wrong word, but constantly kind of giving way, giving ground. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're facilitating, blah blah blah, giving them wings. If you never ever manifestly use your power, then you end up being a really great leader. Because people will go, yeah, I'm with him. Yeah, I'm with him.
But also, like, if somebody organises an event that they're desperate to do, and it fails, it's not your fault. It's their fault.
Yeah.
No, give it a go. Well, give it a go. There you go. Problem solved. It's not going to happen again. And if it works out well, despite your better judgment, I've done really well. Come with this idea. Yeah. Is it carry a big stick but wield it gently? There's some sort of phrase about that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the only time is, like you say, sometimes you have to. I remember one time it was a competition. There was someone who kept on, someone from abroad at the JKS competition kept on hitting people, and he got a joke. He got chucked out. You know, there's a moment when you have to act like that.
Yeah, and when you do that, I mean, that's the thing. When you do act, you act with such authority.
Yeah.
Because you've acted, and it's such a rare thing that people go, whatever he said. Because it's such a rare thing.
Yeah. You said it's not karate, and it was quite right, because this guy was a prick, and he was hitting everybody and blah, 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 blah. And literally, you know, up you go.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Right, well, they're good answers then, aren't they? Thank you. I'm going to give you this is a weird, well, this is not a weird one. This is from, is it Marcel from JKA Midwest?
Oh, Marcel, yeah.
Fantastic. First question is an odd one, and I Google this, and it goes, is 54 a significant number in karate?
Yes.
Ah, really?
Yeah. So it comes from 108 mortal sins of Buddhism.
Yeah, 54.
Yeah, that's half.
Ah. Now you see, I didn't know this. I know everything.
What's Hyakuhachi Ho?
Well, that's the next question.
So yeah, Hyakuhachi Ho, 108.
Yeah.
Gokushi Ho, short, die, 54, big and small. Also, could it be Niju Shiho? Niju Shiho, Niju Shichiho? 27.
Yeah.
So there is a theory that Niju Shiho, 24 steps, it's like a misunderstanding. It should be Niju Shichiho, Shichi. It's literally one syllable different. If it was one syllable difference, it would be 24. It'd be 27, 54, 108. Yeah,
because seven's a lucky number, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also with that, it goes into that thingy. Yeah. Oh, that's a great answer. That's brilliant. You know, because I don't like it when I don't know, because I looked at it, no. And then I Googled it, and a load of numerology came up. Actually, because the other one is Phil Hickson. He just asked about Hakuhachi Ho and whether we practice it. And well, tell me your thoughts on that, and then I'll tell you mine.
Yeah, and I've taught it a number of times. I
used to know it. I used to do it with Alan quite a lot. I've forgotten it now.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. It's a really nice kata, and you know, it's in Best Karate, right? It's mentioned in Nakayama Sensei's Best Karate.
It's in the Kyo book as well.
Okay, yeah.
I've got upstairs. But also, it's Arai Sensei does it on YouTube, which I'll send it to Phil Hickson if you're watching. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
And the one Arai Sensei was JKS, was he? Yamaguchi.
Arai Sensei was the assistant of Yamaguchi Toru Sensei, he was never JKS. He was JK after the Asai Sensei split. Well, he was JK, and then he followed Asai Sensei after the split. And then when it got to the JKS, it was becoming the JKS, he'd kind of retired, semi-retired by that point. And Arai Sensei was his assistant in his dojo in Gotemba, which is at the foothills of Mount Fuji, which was a fantastic dojo. I was there a couple of times. Lovely.
So and so it's Super Enpei in
Goju-Ryu. Yeah, sure.
And the Kyo version is much more like the Goju-Ryu version, and the Arai version is much more, it's like a Shotokanized version. And interesting, my Goju-Ryu background, they won't teach Super Enpei to anyone until your 5th dan.
Really?
Which I quite like, because there's only 12 kata. And literally, when I did Goju-Ryu, they said, no, I said, can we do Super? No. And the people who were teaching me were 4th dan. They said, we don't know it. And I quite like that.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting. Because it's quite a long kata, and there's lots of this.
Yeah.
If you rubbish at it, it's one of those katas, like the people are crap. It makes you kind of angry, because it's a very profound kata. So, so that's a really good answer. So, and I'll do his supplementary question then, which is completely different, which is, hang on, wait just a second, I've got so many pages. Okay, so he says, in this COVID pandemic world, it's from Marcelia, how have the international big karate organizations come out of dealing with life in the pandemic? Does that make sense?
How have the big international organizations come out of the pandemic?
Yeah, in terms of how's their reaction? What do we make of the reaction of the big international organizations in this pandemic global situation?
I think I genuinely think that they have missed it. And the size of, like, okay, let's say the JKA, but like I use the JKA like as a generic term, like any kind of JK size organization, although obviously they're probably one of the biggest, they are the biggest kind of organization in the world internationally, but like the JKA and organizations like that, the size, obviously the size has to have systems in place and rules and hierarchies and all that stuff. You can't work without some sort of infrastructure. You can't maintain a massive organization like that without infrastructure. And it's one of the big problems about but not only in the karate world, but also in the corporate world and business, everything like that. The bigger you get, the more of a dinosaur you become. You're slow to move and you're slow to adapt. And so as a result, I think they've been exceptionally slow to adapt to this. And what they've done is they've used an old model, the existing model, and tried to apply it to the pandemic, to the COVID situation. And I think there will always be those diehards who are Japanophiles, and unless you've got a JK badge on your dogi, you're not doing Shotokan karate.
I was one of them for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. But there'll be an awful lot of people who have had access to kind of wonderful training online, whether it be, karate at home, whether it be the stuff that we've been doing, or countless other JD Swanson doing his...
JD's doing one, yeah.
So his karate thoughts and all that kind of stuff. And like just layer upon layer of different nuanced kind of technical, physical, mental input, from one extreme of Rick Jackson doing his Zazen meditation to, the other extreme of science that, JD Swanson's doing, or, whatever it is, everything and anything. And that they've had complete and free access to. And they're going to go back to their mainstream organizations and think, well, first of all, you've done either nothing, or what you've done, you've charged normal rates for, or what you've done is acceptable, but I now see there's another way.
Or tokenistic, someone who does like one course.
Yeah.
I mean, this leads on to a question from Shelley, which says, why do organizations not let people train with other organizations? Why don't they let downgrades fly? And I mean sorry, she sent that to me, and I messaged back going, well, why do downgrades follow those instructions?
Yeah.
I mean, are they allowed to do Zoom classes with us? Well, we know someone who did Zoom classes with you, who sort of didn't get in trouble, but it was frowned upon and caused a reaction. Yeah. And she wouldn't put a screen on.
Yeah.
We've always had a few watchers. When I started my show guide classes, I definitely had a few watchers.
Yeah.
Like no name, no screen. I go, put your screen on,
Yeah. I mean, I had a conversation with Aidan Trimble-Sensor last week, because we taught last Saturday. We taught a seminar together with Christy. And he got a message from some people. We got a message from a father who sent him a photograph and saying, "Oh, here's a picture of my two boys training with you. They had a fantastic time. They really loved your class. Thank you very much."
Yeah.
So he posted the video, the photo, saying, "Lovely message from blah blah blah. It's lovely that like seminars like this can really kind of spread the word, kind of thing."
Yeah.
And normally fairly reasonable thing to do. He got a message from the father saying, "Sorry, can you take that down, because the kids instructor doesn't allow them to train with anybody else." Like, what world are we living in where that's the thing? And I think
that happened to us recently this year. Someone who I really like said to me, "I can't have a picture taken with it." I said, "Fine," but really, really, is it so bad? I suppose it's like church. It's a bit like, I don't know. I'm not, forgive me if I get the names wrong. It's like if a Presbyterian went to a Methodist church or a Catholic church and they found out.
Yeah.
Does it mean going to hell?
Yeah.
Very weird, isn't it?
I mean, it's like my grandmother, on my father's side, didn't go to her son's, my father's wedding, because it was in a Protestant church. So my dad,
right too.
And so she sat outside during the ceremony.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like Jerry Seinfeld's joke about supporting sports teams. He says you don't support the team. He says you support the uniform. He says because the guy next season could be playing somewhere else, and you go, boo, boo, he's terrible.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You go, yeah, he's the best player in the world. No, you're supporting the jersey. That's all you're doing. And the karate world's no different.
Yeah, well, human beings are the same. It's Bloods and the Crips, isn't it? It's people die over them over colours. Do you want to do a question, or do you want me to do one?
I have no questions for you.
You see, I'm not sparkly enough.
I tell you what.
Well,
this drink is great.
Isn't drinking good?
I haven't drank for a month and one beer.
Do you want to get another one, or you're all right?
No, I don't. I've got to teach tomorrow.
Well, yeah, I've got to train tomorrow. Right, here we go. So this is, well, brace yourself for this one. Okay. Having read Karate Stupid and Chasing Bushido, can you explain why the JKA instructor's course is held in such high esteem in spite of the cruel and violent treatment? Despite the cruel and violent treatment, is it possible to achieve the same level of karate outside such a course?
No.
Good. Well, can you elaborate?
The British SAS and the South African SAS and the Australian SAS.
We're all in.
Yeah, I'll consider some of the best special forces in the world.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. The reason why is because they practice with live ammo. When they go into the death house, as they call it, which is the where they practice the siege things, they shoot with live ammo. And I think it's a third of all fatalities within the SAS is during training.
Yeah, people die on doing that. There's a walk called the fan dance, and people have died doing that.
Yeah,
from heat exhaustion. Yeah.
Now, so my point is that if you want to produce an elite force, you can't do it by encouragement. And this has been scientifically proven that, you know, they've had platoons of men, and one platoon has had a drill sergeant saying, you know, I will rip off your head and down your neck if you don't get up and move. And the other platoon has had, you know, some hippy dippy kind of like psychologist going, now look, for the group good and for your own good and your self-esteem, I think you should get up and, you know, and who's going to win the race? Who's going to walk further? Blah, blah, blah.
Fight,
yeah. So it is an elite kind of situation that produces results, obviously, and is an extreme kind of training method in its nature. And as a result, there's a massive drop off. There's not only a drop off once you're on the course, but in terms of just trying to get there, there's a very stringent kind of you know, way of deciding who gets there and who doesn't. So of course it's worth it. You know, Richard Senpai's karate is some of the best karate in the world. And would he have got the, you know, he was really good before he went to Japan. I once spoke to Alan Parrish, and I said to him, because Alan Parrish in the South End on Sea knew him before he went to Japan. And I said to Alan, I said, you know, what was Richard's karate like before he went to Japan? He says, oh, you know, Richard was always really good.
He says, I see him in the nationals. He always placed in the nationals, yeah.
Yeah. He said, but after Japan, he was just more him.
Yeah.
And actually, strangely, Alan Campbell knew me before I went to Japan, and someone asked him the same question. He said, "Oh, what's Scott like before he went to Japan?" He said, "Scott was always Scott, you know." He says, "But when he came back, he was just more him."
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. You know, you get distilled down to everything that you can be. Without the chaff, without the kind of the waste, without anything else. And that won't happen through encouragement.
Do you think it's finished now, though? Do you think those days are gone?
No. I mean, I think that, they're still churning out instructors, both the JKA and the JKS.
But they're not gaijin instructors.
Yeah, no, that's gone.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. It's incredibly sort of archaic, isn't it? It's like, you know, I'm obsessed. I think, you know, like lots of karate people do. You know, Annette says, "Did I ever consider doing it?" No, but you know, it's very interesting because it's so much. You know, being karate is kind of a by the by.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be a linguist. You've got to be a social anthropologist. You know, you need to be incredibly organized. The whole thing is ridiculously tricky.
Yeah.
Lots of people, I said, well, Frank Brennan should have done it. Melvin Hall should have done it. And with the greatest respect to them, they couldn't have done it. I don't. Well, they could have done, but they wouldn't perhaps be prepared to have done it, because it's just like, you know, Kamal Sensei, like, you know, found his way to do it, didn't he, by fitting in to Japan. Yeah. So it's wonderful, but it's a shame that no more Gaigokujin can do it.
Well, you know, but having said that, after Tom Compier Senpai, you know, Tom Compier Sensei, who is Dutch.
Tom's brilliant. Very good critic. Yeah.
PhD, Oxford educated, Cambridge educated. Kind of exceptionally intelligent, exceptionally talented,
and tough guy.
Yeah, wonderful human being. He did it, but for various personal reasons, didn't complete it.
I think he made a very measured choice. Going, it's not worth it.
For sure.
I think it's told me. I think he decided. He said the split was going on. I think he decided, it's not it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, and so he didn't complete it. And after him, they said, right, that's it. No more foreign. You know, despite the fact that kind of like probably 50 to 75% of Japanese people quit. So Tom Sensei, you know, he decided that you know, he blah blah blah, he didn't continue. And so as a result, they said, that's it. No more foreigners. No more foreigners were allowed to enter the instructor's course. And then, literally that exact time, I arrived. And so I had to spend a couple of years convincing them that, maybe that wasn't the best decision. So, like, I can only hope that it would be a real shame if from a karate development point of view, it'd be a really real shame if the JK, JKS, whoever is running instructor's course nowadays, if they stopped taking on foreigners.
JKA haven't got one. I mean, there must be. I must ask my JKA friends. They haven't got one either. They
did. Last I heard, they were allowing foreigners to become renshusei, which is not kenshusei, but renshusei, which is a training person. So you train on the instructor's course, you do the same thing, you just don't get the same accreditation, and you also have to pay for it. And it's quite a lot of money at the time. But I think, I think. So from a kind of standing back point of view, they should allow it. From a kind of like organizational point of view of running the HDKI and thinking about the future of that, like I hope they never allow any foreigner ever again, because for sure, certainly I think what people have seen on Kangyoku this week, we are certainly producing the goods. Step by step, from Rue to AJ to Ross. And if that process continues, and not only if that process continues, but also that process continues in multiple venues. Ross moves to America next year, replicates the same thing. Rue moves somewhere, does. And if we start to replicate that worldwide, then all of a sudden we have what Japan had without the political kind of xenophobic BS.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen, especially say Rue, for example. When he started, how long has he been with you now?
This is his 2.5 years.
Now, I don't mean this in any complimentary way, but he's got really good. But when he started, he was a nice guy, always looked a bit younger than he was, always the smallest guy. And he spent, he trains all the time, teaches all the time. He's become a very good karateka, and a tough proper karate guy. By living the karate life. My ambition is to hopefully get someone from GB to do that. One of my students is vaguely interested in it, there is a path there, isn't it, to do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And even that still has a cultural minefield, because you've got to learn to live in Dublin, you've got to be able to, live there. It's like this is hard as living in Dublin now is as hard as living in Tokyo, isn't it? In many ways, financially.
Yeah, and also, there is the same kind of cultural pitfalls of kind of living with me. Anyway. Because not living as in living with me, but being in my dojo, because it's a really delicate balance that they have to learn, and the guys have learned very well. But
Well, sometimes if you don't fit in, you don't fit in, do you? And right, should we do any more questions, or are we done?
Let's do either 2 short ones or 1 long one, and then we'll call it a day, shall we?
Okay, hang on. Okay, what changes might you consider to the well-established Shotokan syllabus?
None.
If any.
None. Because seeing the syllabus as important is seeing words and letters as important to literature. It's meaningless. It's not what you do, it's how you do it.
You're right. I mean, this goes back to our sort of dogma that, do number right or Yuzuki, and they'll grade you. To be honest, I mean, I really love that less is more idea, really. So you're right. I mean, we could probably pare it down.
If anything, But I think also you could pare it down, but the thing is that grading should be a journey. It's much more of it's a journey for the candidate rather than obviously not for the examiner. So it's not so much me bestowing a grade onto the person. It's the person proving to themselves that they're worth that grade. And I validate that. And I think that's a really important distinction. So So if you pare it down and it becomes less physically arduous or challenging, then it feels less of an achievement. They have to feel completely and utterly exhausted at the end of it.
Yeah.
Not and a lot of people, you know, like if you have a okay, I'll word this. I won't word this carefully. If you have someone whose grading authority is of very low status, there is more likelihood that they will make that person work physically harder. Whereas if they grade with someone who has a high level status, then they are already trying super hard and super nervous and super anxious, and that every ounce of them is kind of like, oh, I'm going to have to do this grading, and they could just do Ginambarai and be sweating buckets.
Yeah.
So,
and also, I think Kumite fits that position really, really well. Is that we're both kind of looking for the same thing in Kumite, aren't we? And that is, you know, it doesn't have to take very long, but that puts that level of stress and that exhaustion. Yeah. I think that's it. And also, I think when you talk about journeys, how often do we see people going like for Nidan who are doing Shodan karate, or especially people who are Nidans maybe going for Sandan karate? But you know, you're thinking you're still doing Nidan karate. And that letting go, I mean, that's why the syllabus is great, because, you know, I've teach that syllabus to people, and it's very much like, no, don't let it go. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think, we like the syllabus as it is. The last one from Lee Thompson, Cleethorpes, Justin BC's club. What are your thoughts on the growing fashion for instructors who mainly teach bunkai and define their karate by bunkai to not doing Kion and stuff like that?
Well, I think, I think it's bunkai itself is good. You know, it's something that is an element of karate that shouldn't be kind of dismissed. I think, like to kind of address the question, that, you know, if you are defining yourself by teaching bunkai, you become very niche. Now, as a business strategy, that might be a good thing. But you know, so if you're the only one who's doing that, then, you know, as a business strategy, you'll do very well.
George Dillman was the first guy to do this in the States. He came over here, and it was like, I mean, I remember looking at him going, why don't I know this?
Yeah,
but it was good. But then he went more extreme, and then he did like no touch knockouts. And then became discredited because he was a businessman. He was trying to find a market for it.
But
he was the guy who started it all off. Sorry?
By that point, he was a millionaire.
By that point, he was a millionaire, correct.
Yeah. So I think as a business strategy, you have to be, if you found a niche that no one else is anywhere near, then you can probably do really well as a business strategy. I think as a karate development strategy, I think if you become overly focused on that type of stuff, then you sacrifice everything else. And so I think as a karate development strategy, like if you're developing as a karateka, there'll always, generally speaking, be something new. You know, it's esoteric in its knowledge, so you don't realize the next level exists until you've cracked this level. And when you've cracked this level, and there's a whole new level, and you work on that, and then you think, well, this is it. This I've plateaued, and all of a sudden you crack that. Oh, and then there's another level, and so it's esoteric in that knowledge. So I think if you're doing karate that way, there'll always be something new to teach. Whereas you're just focusing on that niche, there may be level upon level upon level within that niche, but it's niche. It's kind of like a just small part of it. So I think you have to be careful about that. And I think also the people who kind of focus on bunkai, and that's all they do, it becomes very formulaic. Whereas, like, you know, Steve Ubel Sensei, for example, who, as far as I'm concerned, is the best at kata application. He never does the same thing twice because he never focuses on kata application. He's the best I've ever seen at kata application, but doesn't focus on it.
But it's not, it's like, you know, there's a Jim Carrey sketch, which is great, the karate instructor.
Yeah.
And he gets these girls, he goes, right, I'm going to teach you karate. Here's the knife, right, attack me with the knife. And she does this and stabs him. He goes, no, like this, this.
Yeah.
And in a way, apart from the people who are really good at it, like Ian Abernathy and people I think who are great, but it can be like a refuge for scoundrels, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe people who are maybe don't know. I mean, like, the famous guy who told me I just do kumite because you have to kill me type of thing.
Yeah.
It's for people who like, you can only do it. It's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. We have to it's all dum.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's hopefully dying now. I think that's almost dead. But
Yeah.
that was in niche for a long time. So the guys who came from Japan originally like Supermen. So Inoue and Kanazawa, they were doing these kicks. I remember seeing side kicks the first time going, wow! They had something that no one else had.
Yeah.
And then as the market evolved, people came up with sport karate and then bunkai karate, then knockdown karate. So it's just another marketing tool, isn't it? And the fact is, really, bunkai is just part of karate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just a part.
Not the be all and end all. And the worst thing about Shotokan is that they're reverse engineered bunkai, really, which just drives us mad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I talked with Rick Jackson on Wednesday. Rick Jackson Sensei. He talked about Oyazuki. He said, I don't think about bunkai. I'm working on Oyazuki at the moment, and that's like 50 years of karate. You go, that'll do me.
Yeah. So there we go.
I've got one more question from Reva.
Okay, go
just
on.
A short one. From Reva from Pennsylvania, our friend Reva Tan. She says, how are you coping with kumite? Not being able to do kumite with Zoom restrictions.
Well,
I think we're all missing it, aren't we?
Reva, I'm very lucky. I might not look it, but I'm the professional elite of the karate world.
Yeah.
With 3 other professional elite, which means I can still train. So I mean, the one thing, so we're still doing kumite basically, but the one thing that we have been limited by is that because we're doing Zoom training, so of course our evening training is Zoom, so there's no kumite there, but that's when we teach anyway. But the morning training, that's when we spar. But we're also, because of the guys who would normally train with us in the morning, so there's anywhere between kind of 8 and 10 people that would train in the mornings. Well, only 4 of us are professionals, so only 4 of us are in the dojo. And the others are joining in via Zoom. And so if they're online, it then becomes very difficult to go, sorry guys, can you just watch whilst we fight? Now, there are times when we say that, and there are times when whoever's watching, whoever's there, they have so for example, Vince from Mauritius, he's generally speaking on the morning training. So we'll say, okay, Vince, go and punch you, because he's in his dojo, go and punch your bag for 10 minutes and we're going to fight, or that type of thing. But that is limiting, that we got to be mindful, because as much as we'd like to say, well, sod you, we're going to train. No, they are kind of, patronizing us by being there and supporting us and blah, blah, blah. So we have a duty of care to make sure that we consider to them. But there are times when we say, okay, well, look, the next 5, 10, 15 minutes, we're going to do this and you're going to do that. But yeah, we're still continuing.
Yeah. I was talking to Paul Urin, the HDKI squad coach, and we're all missing that kumite bit.
Yeah.
But you can't do it at the moment, so you can't do it.
Yeah, it's hard, right? It's hard. But what I would say, and I said it last week actually, I was teaching online, I was saying, look, I was teaching for Roy O'Kane up in Kanzen in Scotland, and online. And
how many people did that? There's lots and lots of people on that.
200 odd people from.
That was 3 as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. It was a great seminar. Yeah, but afterwards he said, "Oh, is there any words for the masses? Any words of encouragement?" So I was like, "Oh God, what am I going to say?" But what I ended up kind of spluttering out was like saying, "Look, with the lights is at the end of the tunnel. We can see it. It's there. We're going to get a vaccine. We're going to get a jab in our arm." And as much as people don't believe that such a massive catastrophic event as the pandemic can be kind of rectified by a simple injection, it will. And we will be there. And come the summer, we'll be looking at this and going, oh, well, that was that then, was it? So when we get there, we need to hit the ground running. And so what I would say to people is that they make sure they're fighting fit. And there's loads of opportunities and loads of training sessions and everything's going on where you can be the fittest, strongest you've ever been. And I'm 48 years old now, and I think I feel
really old, Sensei.
Yeah, no, I feel fitter and stronger than I have done for a long, long time, because I've been training really hard, and so I think people can get into that point where they feel fit and strong, healthy, and as soon as we're back in the dojo, literally hit the ground running.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's a good final sentence.
Okay. So I've run out of beer to do a final kampai, but let's just.
I've got that left. So okay. Pleasure, Sensei. Thank you.
The first beer
11 we've done.
I'm glad I shared it with you. Oh.